and welcome to the Historic Scotland podcast. My name's Sarah McGilvray. I'm an actor and writer with a passion for people, place and story. Each episode we travel to a different site, chat to the people that take care of it and uncover its surprising story. We're finishing up this season on the Isle of Lewis at one of Scotland's most enigmatic monuments, the Calanais Standing Stones. This cross-shaped ring of stones has stood on a ridge for nearly 5,000 years. To find out more, we meet local historian Ian Mchardy.
Only at this latitude, the southern extreme of the moon rolls across the horizon, and it's just above the horizon. I saw this in 2006-07. It happens a few times over about a 2-year period, and I had pretty high expectations, and I was still blown away. It was incredible.
We're also chatting to Maclean, who took one of Calanais' most iconic photographs.
I was really curious to find out more and went to the astronomy library and was astonished to find there's almost next to nothing there. An awareness that the church disapproved of the stones and the pagan connections.
We're also meeting Dr. Cat Dunn, who's curated an exhibition featuring work from Lewis with Historic Scotland.
Yeah, the exhibition is on now. Go and see it. It's going to be travelling, which I'm really excited about. It starts at Stirling Castle. It's going to go to Lewis, to Orkney, to Dumfries. So I'm so pleased that they've decided it's going to be a travelling exhibition, and I hope that everybody goes and sees it. Write me and tell me what you think.
The road to Calanais winds west from Stornoway. You walk up a gentle slope with the wind in your ears, and suddenly you're standing inside the circle. Some are thin, others blocky and broad-shouldered. The tallest, at the heart of the ring, rises nearly 5 metres above your head. 13 stones form a circle, and radiating out from it are rows. A long avenue marches to the north. Shorter lines reach east, west and south. Seen from above, it forms a rough cross. The stones take us back to the Neolithic, to a time before writing, before metal, to when islanders hauled 3 billion-year-old Lewisian rock across the moor by hand and laid it out in such a way that even today we're asking why. This is Ian. He is an archaeologist and has written a guide to the standing stones called Contemplating Calanais. I started by asking Ian what Calanais actually is.
You don't look at the Mona Lisa and say, what is it? Or what does it do? That's the $1 million question, isn't it? What are they?
Yeah.
I mean, the local people told Martin in 1695 that they were a place appointed for worship in heathen times. I think that's kind of...
In 1695, that's what locals said?
Yeah. I mean, a place appointed for worship, I think, would be a way that you could see it. It wouldn't be too far. I mean, we don't know, but that's one way to see it. They could be representing the island, the island as a whole. They could be to do with astronomy, with the astronomy of the people. They could just be to do with celebration. They could be to do with just purely the time of year and the agricultural cycle. They could be to do with the moon. They could be to do with the sun. It could be both. I think all of these things, to some degree, are going on.
So you notice when you're standing here, it's very open and it's an incredible landscape.
Aye.
And are we right in thinking that there are other sort of Neolithic structures in this landscape, and how would they sort of connect with each other? How do they speak to each other?
Yeah, well, you're right. There's lots, depending on how you count them, but at least 10 other stone circles in this little area.
Is there 10?
Yeah, there's definitely a concentration. So there's various thoughts about that. There are other places in Britain and Ireland where there's concentrations of monuments, and people have noticed that they seem to be where, not in concentrations of where people would live, but where people can easily get to.
Sort of like...
like a crossroads.
Like travel routes.
And Calanais is exactly that. Locally, for the island of Lewis, it's very central, and it's like if you want to go from the north of the island to the southwest, you have to go through past Calanais, and you go across the where the loch is very narrow here. Otherwise, you've got to go miles around, you know. So this is, and also if you want to go east to west, that's where the road is now. It's the same thing. So it's almost like a central roundabout,
right?
You know, like so it is very central. So you know, the reason why there's so many could be different communities coming and building their own little sort of mini ones around. So that's one explanation.
This is Malcolm.
This is the most complex of all the sites.
Oh, is it?
All the stone sites, the cruciform shape is just kind of, you know, you get circles and you'll get aisles and you'll get variations in that, but this is the most complex.
Is there like connections there between them, like in terms of like they were communicating with each other? And,
yes, absolutely. You can always tell the standing stone, a megalith, from the way it's embedded in the ground. They had very specific ways of securing them. When you think about it, this has stayed vertical through multiple winds, storms, hurricanes, 5,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So
how?
The way that that's happened is because they have had a very specific way of embedding them in the soil. There's a particular means of packing the base with stones. They would dig the trench, insert the standing stone, and then they would pack the base of it with stones.
Okay.
So one of the things that got me involved here in the first instance with Margaret Ponting was to help her map the various sites in the area. I think there's 23 or 24 different sites here, all kind of within sight of where we're standing.
Wow.
Right? And this is just one of them. And this is the main one by a mile. The others are all circles or individual stones, but they're scattered all about this whole area as far as the eye can see.
Wow. We owe a lot of what we know about Calanais today to a woman called Margaret Ponting. Margaret became deeply associated with the stones at Calanais. Working first with her husband Gerald and later with her second husband Ron Curtis, she helped build a vast archive of observations on the landscape and the astronomical alignments surrounding Calanais. It's research that Historic Scotland still regards as an important and valuable body of knowledge today.
My lovely friend Margaret, because she was so obsessive and amateur, had been collecting every picture of Calanais that she could get her hands on pre-photography, right? And then she ranked them in order of accuracy. The right number of stones, the right shapes, the right spaces between them, etc. And it had gone back centuries, drawings, engravings, various different things, and ended up with a few that were actually remarkably accurate, right? Most of them, or many of them at least, were artistic license. When she looked at them, she realised, hang on a second, that arm of the cross and all of the old accurate ones was showing an additional stone. So she climbed over the fence into the crofter next door, prodded around under the ground and found the last stone in that arm of the cross, just 6 inches under the earth.
Really?
Right? Yep,
that one right at the end there?
You had to move the fence.
Wow, so she found it just sticking up?
She found it. No, it wasn't sticking up.
Oh, was it not?
It was 6 inches under the ground.
Oh.
Because it had fallen over and been kind of, earth had accumulated on top of it. And the only indication that there was anything there was her obsessive study of all these old drawings.
And it's a really inspiring story to hear about someone who lived locally, who was so passionate about the stones, and she'd obviously, her work, she'd done so much work and like dedicated herself to it, and then to make that discovery, I mean,
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Exactly, I completely agree. One of the things that we did together was attempt to find different alignments for midsummer, midwinter, sunrises, sunsets. Margaret was fascinated by the idea of astroarchaeology and the emerging observations that standing stones were often aligned with the movements of the sun and the moon.
And there's been studies done, right, on the sort of astronomical sort of lineups that occur.
It's been a long-running discussion for hundreds of years.
And will continue to be.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Right. Well,
right, where do you start on this one?
Where do we start on this one? I think you could probably start with the central stone.
And that's this massive...
This massive central stone.
And would that have been the first stone that was put here?
Yeah, probably just from a practical point of view. but it's quite a statement. And
It's
the thing about
massive.
it is, it's got these big, broad, flat faces, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect, well, it's pretty much perfectly north-south. Now, we think we're dead used to north-south today, but north-south actually is not an obvious thing. So, you know, direction-wise, you have to be looking to the sky to understand north. So north is where the North Star is, so all the stars rotate around that one North Star, which was a different star then, but there still was a North Star. So, you know, like the Bedouin apparently call it the top of the tent. You know, so all the stars go round and round this one star. So that's a way to know north. Another way is the sun or the moon at zenith, when it's the highest in the sky. That one central stone, to me, tells you that they were looking up to the stars and you know, the sky.
Because they've got it on north-south.
Yeah, we're on this ridge. It's a crag and tail, a bit like Edinburgh Castle's on a crag and tail. So it's like a crag and tail, and we're just off the summit of the crag, the highest point. And the tail, the ridge, sticks out into this huge bowl of land with like high hills all the way around on the edge.
You can see for miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the perfect place for an astronomer, because you've got a really indented, characterful horizon, all like at a distance, with which you can measure or observe the sun and the moon. So that could be another big thing.
Yeah.
On top of that, right, so the next biggest bit of information for me to say there's astronomy something to do with it, is there's this stone here.
Which, this
number
one right in
9,
front of us.
this number 9, right? It's the only one that's outside of the pattern. So there's a pattern, there's a circle, and then there's rows. And I'm including the avenue in the rows or whatever. So there's lines and there's a circle.
Yeah.
And then there's this sitting outside of that.
And it's the only one that sits outside of that.
There's that little one there is the broken top of that stone that's been cemented in. So that's not actually...
That's not part of the original...
I can't remember, but it's that was not part of the original design. This one is.
This one is, and this is the only one.
This one here is the only one that's outside of that whole design.
The circle and cross and avenue design.
Yeah. Now, it was in the 70s, a local worthy photographed the sun rising. Yeah. See, from this stone, and that triangular stone there, in a perfect line on the horizon. So 3 stones, and the point of the horizon was where the sun rose at solstice.
So we would check out, we would agree who would go to where at midsummer to try and identify where, if there was an alignment, if the zenith would be seen. So we did that.
So between the two of you would do that to decide who was going where to check it?
Yeah, who was going where to check it out. We did that for 2 or 3 years, and then this particular midsummer, the mist was so thick out here that Margaret just didn't bother getting up. She got up and looked out the window and thought, there's no point in going out looking for an alignment. You can't see past the end of her garden. But for myself and 2 friends who were up here, they were both actually very sceptical about the whole idea of midsummer. And one of them, we weren't going to be able to see anything because of the mist, and one of them anyhow, it was a climber, climbed to the top of the stone behind me here, and he's sitting on the top of that, and we're chatting away, and there was a little whiskey involved as well. And
keep you warm.
Keep us warm. And the next thing, the mist suddenly started to clear, and my friend Jim at the top of the stone says, oh, I can see the first flash of the sunrise. I'm handing him my camera. I'm saying, that's great, photograph it. So he's looking through the lens, and then he says, oh, hang on a second, it's rising right up above that sharp pointy stone there that looks just like an arrow, right? And then he said, oh, hang on, there's another one here. There's 2 of them in a line with the midsummer sun rising. And he said, is that an alignment? And I said, actually, you're sitting on the 3rd stone.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So that's indisputably an alignment. For God's sake, photograph it, Jim. And so he then said, I can't work my camera because it's too simple, right? So I'm getting it focused and so on, and it is quite a wonderful shot. And then we realised what we'd done, because whoever had designed Calanais in the first instance, that they had built this into the layout of the stones quite deliberately. And the last person to have that knowledge, to know that that was the viewing stone, was dead, and could possibly have been dead for 2,000 or 3,000 years, right? Here's us in the early morning mist here, the first humans to see it since that time, which was a real kind of hair standing up in the back of your neck moment, you know.
That's amazing to think that, like, you'd been there at that moment to discover that alignment. That's a really special thing to link you with someone.
Stumble into it.
Yeah.
You know, having been looking. And I love the fact that my two friends were so sceptical about alignments with the sun. Don't be ridiculous, Walkie, you know, kind of.
But they were there with you.
They had to. They became complete converts instantly because they saw it with their own eyes, you know.
The sun, back in the Neolithic, the sun rose about a sun's width difference from what it does now. So I think that's a caveat, yeah.
Okay.
So slightly different.
Yeah.
But when you're in the landscape like this, you can kind of see it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. I think it's still valid. Right?
Yeah, it's not a massive difference.
My friend, just the other solstice, friends of mine witnessed it and took another video of exactly the same thing.
And it rises.
Just exactly the edge of those three stones, or if you were, Malky was actually stood on top of that stone. But so we have lots of evidence that is an alignment, and I think that's significant because this stone number 9 is the only one that's outside of the pattern.
Right. So it must have been serving some sort of function for it to be put outside the pattern.
It's a bit like the heel stone at Stonehenge.
Oh, right.
You know, which is sat outside of the circle. So, but then there's another alignment from this stone. So the first stone of the avenue is a really broad, flat one.
Is that the one we can see?
Yeah, that one. It's like straight ahead.
Straight ahead
right
of us.
onto. We're sort of perpendicular onto it, and it's the first one on the east side of the avenue. It's a totally different angle from the rest of the avenue. But from this stone, through that stone, is the northernmost moonrise. So the moon does a thing like, it's a complicated thing. The moon does lots of things.
The moon does a lot of things.
It takes me 5 minutes to explain it. But the northernmost moonrise is that. So this stone that's outside of the pattern, the rest of the pattern has the sun and the moon extreme
lined
built
up
into the monument.
Once we'd established that this was the viewing stone for the midsummer alignment, then Margaret was checking out various possibilities, and she became fascinated by this stone that you see through here.
Mm-hmm. The big one or
the
the smaller one? The little one
behind it, right? There are 3 anomalous stones here, okay? You have the overall cruciform shape. You've got the aisle at the foot of the cross, circle in the centre cross, 2 arms. Now there are 3 anomalies in this layout, in this design. And one of them is the stone behind us, which is the viewing stone, which we only became aware was the viewing stone in the 1980s. And then that was resisted by the archaeological establishment for a long time. But that's a specific anomaly, and initially it was the fact that it didn't form part of the circle or the cross, and was put down to the fact that it could have been the beginnings of a second circle, or the remains of another circle, which had maybe the other stones had been removed to build buildings or whatever, but they had no explanation for why that one was anomalous. And we now know that one to be the viewing stone for the midsummer sunrise. The second anomaly is the one in front of us here. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a very curious one, and Margaret became very fascinated by that one in particular because all of the other stones in the aisle there at the foot of the cross, they're in parallel alignment. That one, the one closest to the circle, is out of alignment.
Yeah.
It's quite significantly out of alignment by more than a metre from the others. But not only that, but it's twisted round in the sense that from here, what we see is simply looks like it's about 9 or 10 inches thick, right? If you move round to the side, however, that stone is a full metre across.
Ah.
Right? So it's a very broad stone. So why is it angled in that particular way? So Margaret became convinced that that one was indicating this horizon, viewed from the viewing stone, the horizon immediately above that particular stone had something significant about it, which she saw as lunar, but died before she had a chance to actually confirm it.
But everyone's got their own.
Yeah,
Everyone's got their own opinion and ideas about it. Some people would say, "Oh, you've got so many stones that you can get whatever angle you want." But to me, that's ignoring the fact that there's a pattern, and this is out with that pattern. It seems to be significant.
Hey, it's Sarah. I hope you're enjoying this episode. We wouldn't be able to make the Historic Scotland podcast without Historic Scotland members. Become a member today. Members get access to extended episodes with exclusive behind-the-scenes content and reflections that didn't make it into the public cut. This time, we're talking about why we chose this location to make a whole episode about. Membership also gives you free entry to Historic Scotland sites across the country, free entry to daytime events, and helps support the care and conservation of the places we explore. If you'd like to hear more and help keep Scotland's stories alive, become a Historic Scotland member today. Follow the link in the episode notes for more information. Whatever Calanais was, observatory, tomb, temple, gathering place, or all of those, it was built to matter. And 5,000 years later, it still does. This is Dr. Cat Dunn.
I'm an independent curator, and I'm creating the exhibition Archaeology and Empire for Historic Environment Scotland.
Cat's exhibition launched at Stirling Castle in April. She was actually just putting the finishing touches on it as we spoke, and explores how the legacy of empire shaped Scotland's history. It's part response, part collaboration to a report published by Historic Scotland that looks at exactly that. Over a third of the sites in the care of Historic Scotland have this link, and Calanais is one of them. Cat's exhibition explores these themes and is touring, coming to Lewis sometime soon.
We really wanted to bring all of our own research into the exhibition. So, for instance, the report starts for me, especially as a jumping off point. Mm-hmm. But then I did my own research. Myself and the artists, we went around to each site. And I think that the artist then responded to the site. So, for instance, Dr. Alberta Whittle has responded to Lewis. Mm-hmm. Matthew Arthur Williams responded to Orkney. Tilda Williams-Kelly responded to Ayrshire. And Graham Fagan responded to Dumfries. Mm-hmm. And in each place, not only myself but the artists, we've all done this amazing amount of research, which we then got together, spoke about, and which I then interpreted and I've laid it through the actual exhibition. Mm-hmm. So it's not. We are very proud to be Scottish. We are proud to live here, but we also have that other identity where we come from these colonized places. Where we have a different understanding. Mm-hmm. And I think that, especially in today where there's the rise of the far right, the education system, when I read a history book for Scotland, I normally laugh because when we're young people, we get put on a bus, we get taken to enslaved plantations, we get taken to enslaved plantation burial grounds. And so there's history right in our face, and 400 years is actually not that long. And so for me, what I really wanted to do was not only to have this idea academia, but I really wanted to have lived experience and what it felt like for us to be in these places that were obtained through empire and transatlantic slavery.
Going back a little bit, so that there was obviously this report created, and as we've sort of talked about, it's very academic, so it's about bringing this report really to life and interpreting it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's really important, as I said, especially now I speak to so many people that I know who are really scared of what's happening, who don't know if they should be here, if they should go back, if they go back. Because your country doesn't, the land of your birth doesn't wait for you to come back home, it continues and it grows. I mean, Barbados itself is now a republic. Mm-hmm. But again, we have this history. And so for me, I'm concerned in the academia part of it, as in making sure we have the dates right and the names right. But for me, it's very much about the lived experience. How do we take how I've taken the report as a jumping off point, come to these places and can stand up and be like, oh, wow. For instance, Lewis was bought based off of the Barbados slave code of the money that was being made. And I think it's not just that, it's about honoring these people who had that done to them. So for instance, being 4 or 5 years old, being put on a bus and being taken to an enslaved burial ground. As a kid, it doesn't really penetrate that much. But as an adult going back, when I was doing my PhD and I was trying to work out why it was so important to me to be this kind of curator of community, of people, to going back and having and knowing what was coming. You drive through the construction companies, you drive through sugarcane fields, and boom, you're right there on an enslaved burial ground. I didn't want to get out of the bus. It was just this very visual thing of I am standing up on my ancestors. I'm standing up on these people who had no remit, and also, the Newtons who still own Newton Burial Ground are refusing to have anything done to it. So there's no radar, ground penetrated radar. There's nothing like that can tell us how many bodies are in each mound, really. And then that, of course, then goes on to things like Dratts Hall Plantation, where they're refusing to give that plantation back to the people of Barbados. But again, how many people are buried there? And so I find all this interesting, considering that, they still owned it, even though they don't live there. They live in England. And yet they were still refusing to give this back. And for me, it's slights like that I think that this exhibition can hopefully allow people to understand that it's not just about what is written in an academic tone. It's about people who are from these places coming to this exhibition and hopefully seeing a little bit of themselves or their ancestors within the exhibition. I think that the artists have done this amazing job. If we, for instance, take Dr. Alberta Whittle, who wanted Lewis, her installation is magical. It's got seawater from Barbados, which I maintain I don't really want to know how she brought that back. But it's also got seawater from Lewis. I know this because we nearly drowned getting it. Oh, really? But again, to incorporate all of that again into with rum and whiskey, and so you've got that being built into the exhibition. You've then also got a library for people who want to know a little bit more, written by different authors and not necessarily Scottish authors.
I'm so excited to go and experience the exhibition. It sounds like such brilliant work that you're doing in collaboration with these brilliant artists and the other partners that you've mentioned there. I mean, it just sounds brilliant. I'm very excited. Can I ask how you came to work with the different artists involved, and then what that process was? So you said you all went round to the different sites were those sites already chosen with Historic Scotland? No,
so basically the sites came from the report. Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, the report, I guess, is like the core of it, where I went through the report. Then I worked out the sites and I kind of created a list. Okay. And so I said to each artist, I really want you to respond to just one thing. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we decided to kind of go around to see what would be responding to. And it was really interesting because some artists I thought were maybe going to fight for more than one thing, but everyone was very clear cut on exactly what they wanted to do from the get-go. And was it all different? It was all very different. And I was like, for instance, I literally thought that Dr. Whittle would maybe have chosen Ayrshire because I know that she's done some filming and something, but instead something about Lewis called to her. For Matthew, something about Orkney I called, and these are not easy places to particularly get to. No, they're not. So being able to, I guess for part of it was very much about honoring the people who came before, mm-hmm. and trying to take that that knowledge of heritage and ancestry and bring it into the here and now. And I think that was maybe the connecting point of being able to see different aspects of each site, but being able to also then look back at the heritage of Barbados or, Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago and going like, okay, I want this site because this for me is resonating something.
Like you were saying, there's so many layers within the artwork. There's also so many layers to what you're doing. And how do you look after yourself in that process? I suppose that's what you're talking to already, and look after the artists.
I think for me, I always kind of put myself last. For me, it's very important that the artists feel nurtured and taken care of, because the work that we're all doing is so insane. But again, that's where collaboration comes back in, because I will literally call each one up. We will sit down together, we will talk together, we'll have a cup of tea together, we'll scream if we need to. I tend to go off and want to punch people. And then I take a moment and then come back. But I think that what gets me through it is seeing the final, the Wicca install will be insane. You will be seeing the archival material going up. You will be seeing the installations and the paintings going in, and then you'll be seeing it as a whole. I've lived with this exhibition, as I said, for like 2.5 years, and so I understand where each piece is going to sit, where it's going to speak to other pieces, where it's going to be in conversation with the archival work. It's kind of living rent-free in my head. And I think that that's the thing that probably gets me through the harder bits, is concentrating on who's going to be educated by this exhibition. Also, who's going to feel proud by going in and understanding the different layers and the different signifiers. And also the people who will then go and take photos and then go and buy the books and read the books to educate. And I think that that's the thing that gets me through. So even though there's been many moments where I've either been in tears or been really angry, I think that that's the thing that gets me through it. It's at the end, what will people get from this? And it's not just a report that they don't particularly want to read. It's an actual, I feel it's like a living, breathing envision of an exhibition, and hopefully everybody gets that. And I think that for me, it's that hope that people understand that that I'm not taking a shot at Scotland, that I love this country, but I also love my birthland, and we understand how we started and where we are now, and I think that that's really important.
The people who raised these stones are gone. Their names, much of their language, their culture and their way of life, all of it lost. Empires have risen and fallen since they walked this ridge. Languages have been born and forgotten.
The truth is that we still really don't know that much about the people who built them. The builders, anyhow, have created something very, very special here that has stood the test of time and seen various empires come and go. So the arrival of Celtic Christianity. They were here before Iona and St. Columba and the Book of Kells. They were here when the Norse arrived in the 9th century, and this place was a Norse dominion for more than 300 years. Place is still full of Oog in particular. Oog's seen as by some scholars now as the centre of the Norse occupation of the Hebrides, but the Norse were only here for 300 years, and although they assimilated to a remarkable extent, I mean, most of the place names here are, a huge number of the place names here are Norse. Right? And when they left as the Lewis chessmen on another beach in Uig, just a few miles down the coast. So they survived that empire and they were still standing. Then you get the golden age of Gaelic culture, with the clan system, which then come the Battle of Culloden falls into the black abyss of the British Empire. And they have now even survived the British Empire as the last embers of our imperial ambitions smoulder away. They're still standing here, and they will be here for centuries to come. They'll be here long after we're gone.
It's like, that's so poetic. Like, to think that, these were erected thousands of years ago, exactly like you're explaining, like they've seen it all come and go, and they will continue to see it all come and go.
Yeah.
But they will remain.
The different communities through all of those centuries that have survived around about here have all had their own relationship with it and placed their own interpretation on what it is, what it was for, how it began. Yeah. But the truth is, we don't know, which I love. I love the fact that it's... Yeah,
They'll remain a mystery.
It's a mystery. What's wrong with mystery? Yeah.
There's a moment when you stand inside the circle at Calanais and realise just how far west you are. By any measure, this is the farthest reach of Scotland. It feels like the edge of the world. For 5,000 years, people have walked up this ridge and stood where I was standing. Neolithic farmers, Bronze Age mourners, medieval shepherds, Victorian antiquarians, you and me. We don't know exactly why this monument was made, but we do know why people still come here. To mark the seasons, to poke at the more curious and mysterious parts of our history, and to be in each other's company beneath an enormous sky. 5 millennia on, that's still what Calanais does. It gathers people in. It turns out that the edge of the world might just be where we find each other. This has been the Historic Scotland podcast. It was produced and edited by Adam Stoner. I'm Sarah McGilvray. Thank you for travelling with us this season. We've uncovered the truth about Scotland's witch trials, gone hunting for a monster in Loch Ness, traced the birth of steam power, and a whole lot more. Every site we visited has had a story to tell, and importantly, someone who loves it enough to tell it well. If these stories have stirred something in you, come and see them for yourself. Historic Scotland membership gives you free entry to over 70 sites across the country, castles, abbeys, brochs, battlefields, and yes, a certain stone circle on the Isle of Lewis. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you've liked this episode, please follow the series and review it. Give us 5 stars. Tell us what you liked and where it has inspired you to travel. We hope to see you soon. Until then.